Howdy ho ho, my good humans. How the hell are you doing? Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all for stopping by to talk about the old log of the backs, the back of the logs. For anybody who did not tune in last week, these are the games that were discussed last week. We went through 10 of these different titles, some new releases, and some like 7 or so older games. Logged about 10 games into my backlogged account. I built this account. I built this account years ago, but I never really used it. Just kind of tinkered around with it. Didn't really understand it, but the more I have been like trying to learn this site, the more I've actually really been liking it. And so the idea, the goal here is to go through and backlog my entire backlog, to apply a star rating to every game that I have ever finished. I shouldn't say that's the goal or anything like that. I just want to, this is a fun series to do. So if you guys enjoy it, let me know, like the video, share it out with a buddy, leave a comment, all that good stuff. It really helps get it out there to more eyeballs, and I'll continue as long as you guys are liking the series. And that's kind of always been my thing. I just want to make what you guys enjoy, and the last one did pretty damn well. A lot of people seem to enjoy it, so I'm happy, more than happy, to continue going back and talking about some of my old favorite games, and even some of my least favorite games that I have rolled credits on, which I guess that's another thing as well. In this site, I don't think it's necessarily designed around, the idea of you want to apply the star rating to the games you finished. I get that's the main concept, but I think there's also like a specific marker you can select where you say you put the game down or you shelve the game, or, you can kind of talk about it and dive into games you didn't finish and kind of give the reason for why you didn't finish it. And that's sort of a backlogged, approved message. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying there. But for how we select the game, how we choose which game to go and backlog, it's a totally randomized process here with the wheel. I built a wheel of 50 games. We got through about, 7 of the old ones last time, so there's 43 games remaining or something to that effect on there. And I'll hit this wheel. Whatever it tells me to go through and review will be the game that we review here today, and we'll pick maybe 10 of them or so. I want to try to rapid fire run through these, and because I can build a new list of 50 games pretty damn quickly. We can run through multiple lists of 50 on here. So the first game Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be the first game that we backlog today. All right, so let's get it on the board here. Horizon Zero Dawn. Listen, man, I know that this is kind of, Horizon has been, it's become one of those series that's like very popular to hate on. But like, dude, when this game came out in 2017, I remember the hype for this thing was real. It was, obviously, you look at it on the screen now, a gorgeous, breathtaking game on the PlayStation 4. But more so than that, it was like when you actually got into it and you were uncovering the story and kind of like this ancient technology that you're finding as Aloy, and then kind of the burden of that technology, and just there was a real sense of wonder in this game. That, of course, you have the robo dinos, and that's incredibly compelling. I thought the combat system was damn good in Horizon Zero Dawn, and laying the traps, and the game is really, really just fundamentally solid. But I think a lot of my criticisms for Horizon Zero Dawn, the first game, more so lie in the side quests definitely are not anywhere near on par with Forbidden West. And that's the tough thing where, now with hindsight, we can kind of compare Zero Dawn to Forbidden West. And in my opinion, Forbidden West does like everything better. I think the story is better in Zero Dawn. And the story is such a huge aspect of this game. It is so narrative leaning, but, and once again, when you're talking about the sense of wonder, and when you're talking about like your first encounters with the robo dinos and just establishing Aloy as a character and growing to understand her and growing to kind of see her come to terms with having this advanced technology, and nobody around her really does, and kind of the burden that comes along with that, where she feels as if she is kind of, I mean, at times she comes off across as like a little bit snobby because she has access to this technology. She's like, I just don't even have time to fucking deal with you people. We're dealing with real, real high stakes shit here. And I think that's interesting. But when you're talking about the open world exploration and the lack of being able to really climb around and some of the lacking stealth mechanics and the melee system not being as fleshed out as Forbidden West. And of course, when you talk about, I don't want to spoil Forbidden West, but you get a method of traversal in Forbidden West that is an absolute game changer. But dude, I mean, Zero Dawn is a great video game and definitely the better story, I would say. And I mean, even there you see this sort of Shadow of the Colossus influence in here, and these games just come out at the worst time possible, with Zero Dawn coming out right before Tears of the Kingdom, and then with Elden Ring coming out right before or right after Forbidden West, just completely overshadowed both of those games. But yeah, man, I mean, Zero Dawn for me, I think I would have to go. I love that game, man. I think I'm going to go 4 stars for Zero Dawn. I really like Horizon Zero Dawn a whole hell of a lot. So let's log it. And back to the wheel we go. Got to remember to remove these things. And I also got to remember to save this list when I'm done, because I had to go back in and redo the entire list, re-input the entire list into this system here. And yeah, it's not the biggest deal in the world. It's just my brain. I'm like, well, what did I put into backlogged last time? So, got to remember to remove them and to save the list as we go through and do this here. So let's spin it one more time, see what we get, see what we shall be backlogging. And it's looking like Cyberpunk 20... Was it the last time we spun it? Was it in between Horizon Zero Dawn and Cyberpunk 2077? Or am I losing my mind? It's so funny. As I'm looking at this here, you have Cyberpunk 2077, the one that came out in 2020. You have Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. You have Cyberpunk 2077 the Ultimate Edition. And it's like, well, that interesting, because you're talking about very different scores that I would give each of these things. But I mean, fair enough. I guess I did just put Cyberpunk 2077 in here. And so let's just review kind of base game Cyberpunk 2077. And even within that, there's complications in this review, because base game comes out late 2020 and I begin playing it on my PlayStation 4, as nobody should be playing Cyberpunk 2077 on their PlayStation 4, like a base PlayStation 4 at that. Not how that game should be played, but I didn't play through it. I got probably 12 hours in, ran into a game-breaking bug, and I was like, wonderful. So I gave up on it. I backlogged it. I shelved it, whatever you want to call it. And I waited until I could find a PS5, because you got to take yourself back to this time. This was, we're talking pandemic, COVID era, and you couldn't just get these things. They were not readily available, PlayStation 5s and Series X's. And so I'm sitting there just kind of waiting until I can grab one of these things. And I wasn't in some crazy rush, but I'm definitely wanting to play some stuff like this, and then Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and then games of that ilk. And so I wait and finally get the PS5, and I run through it on the PS5, and I absolutely adored it. However, it was very busted still at that time. It was very, very janky when I played through it in 2021, or whatever the case may be. I think it was either late. Yeah, it would have been 2021 without a doubt. But, it was still really busted. It was still very, very rough around the edges, but the soul was still there. The soul was, I saw what they were going for with this game, and I absolutely loved the story. There are definitely some shortcomings with the story, no doubt. And some of the stuff with the end and even the beginning of the game, feel that when you're picking your different class, whichever class you want to be. Do you want to be the nomad, the street kid, the corpo, whichever direction you want to go from the beginning? I was actually expecting to have a little bit more those roles to impact the game a little bit more. And early on, there's a little bit of a difference between the three roles and where you start out at, but throughout the course of the game, you begin to realize that that's not having much of an impact at all in your playthrough. But there's moments in Cyberpunk 2077 that I will never forget from a narrative standpoint. Kind of, impossible not to really spoil anything when talking about the big moments from that game. But I'll just say the heist related mission a few hours into the game will always stick with me. Some of the Johnny Silverhand interactions will always stick with me, especially, midway or so through the game. And I mean, even you go into, I know we're not talking about Phantom Liberty here, but Phantom Liberty, not to even talk about the gameplay, because that they took that to 11. The gameplay in 2.0, with Phantom Liberty was unbelievable in comparison to the base game. But some of the story stuff that happens there as well is, you get your kind of undercover James Bond sort of spy vibes going on in that story. And once again, I shouldn't have even brought that up because we're not talking about the DLC, but it's, yeah, man. I mean, there are not many games out there that are, this just has that sort of it factor, just has that kind of cool thing going on with it. And it's something that's kind of impossible to describe, but this shit's just kind of cool. And I don't experience many games where I'm like, that's just really fucking cool. And I don't know how you tap into that. I don't know what makes cool, but that shit's just fucking cool. And I don't at all know how you convert cool into a 1 out of 5 star rating here, but I guess that's what we have to do. Listen, if we're talking base game 2020, playing it on a PS4, this thing's a half a star, but if we're talking playing it on a PS5, then that probably bumps it up to at least 4 stars. And then if we're talking about like the 2.0 version, which we'll save all of that, maybe have a whole different entry for Cyberpunk 2.0. But let's say, I think that 3.5 sounds about fair for if we're talking Cyberpunk 2077 from 2020. I didn't really consider the fact that, yeah, I guess there are multiple versions of this game, and the 2020 version is without a doubt the worst version of that game, but it's a damn near unplayable game on base PS4. I mean, for me, it was literally an unplayable game on base PS4, and then I really loved it on PS5. So there's like a mix of different emotions regarding that one game. So let's head back to the wheel, remove Cyberpunk 2077, and we shall spin it. We riding spinners. They don't stop. And it will land on, oh yeah. Now this, my friends, this is a game we can review here today. Mass Effect 2. Let's backlog Mass Effect 2. Alright, so Mass Effect 2 from 2010. Let's throw a star on it. So for me, I think the thing that is the most impressive about Mass Effect 2 is that, like, it's a game that, it comes out, 3 years after Mass Effect 1. And Mass Effect 1, I love it so dearly. I prefer Mass Effect 1 over Mass Effect 2. But, when talking about the better game, Mass Effect 2 is certainly the better game. And I think that you see that first and foremost in the shooting, the third person shooting. The gameplay is just so damn tight. I think still to this day, it is one of the best playing RPGs of all time. It legitimately, and especially at the time, it legit feels, I'm not saying as good as Gears of War, but it feels comparable to a Gears of War, cover-based shooter, but then add in your decision making and your role playing. And once again, I agree, certainly, that Mass Effect 2, it does strip back some of the depth within the role playing systems that were in Mass Effect 1, but I think it does it intelligently where it removes a lot of the fat, a lot of the things that weren't like necessary to enjoying the experience, and replaces it with just, I mean, incredible fucking gameplay for 2010. You got to keep in mind, when we're talking 2010 third-person shooters, you're looking at something like Red Dead Redemption 1 that comes out the same year. And I mean, I hate to throw one of my favorite games of all time under the bus, but I mean, look at something like Alpha Protocol that comes out the same year. And I think a big reason that Alpha Protocol struggled is because when you do a side-by-side comparison to this game, it's like Alpha Protocol looks like it came out in 1902. This thing still to this day plays so goddamn well. And, it's funny to talk so much in the opening of this review, not, full-blown review, but in this sort of quick summary of my thoughts on the game, to talk so much about the gameplay, because the gameplay, as good as it is kind of an afterthought. It's a masterclass of a story with, maybe not as strong of a villain in comparison to Mass Effect 1, but in terms of, it is a, buddy cop style big blockbuster movie of sorts, and it's all centered around your companions. The entire game is one big, elaborate, fully fleshed out companion quest, and it all leads up to this epic moment. Once again, not to spoil anything, but everybody's heard about the suicide mission. I won't go into it too in depth, but to have everything from that point, from the beginning of the game and your interactions with your companions and the information that you retain about your companions through your dealings with them, having it all matter to such a specific degree and to such a, it is everything at the end of this game. How close you are with your companions, what they can and cannot do well, and just such a fucking brilliant crescendo moment. And sure, maybe not the best like final boss fight or anything, but Mass Effect 2 is dude, a god tier video game. It's crazy that, and to be fair, I did replay it when it came out in the Legendary Edition. What was that, 2021? So it's only been 4 years since I've replayed it, but this is one of those games where all of the different companions, I can just rattle them off instantly. They leave a lasting impact on you, and that is not something I can say about 99% of RPGs. It's just a very, very special video game. So with that being said, without a doubt, 5 stars. Ah, shit, I forgot that you gotta like jot down a couple lines in the review actual text box. Wait, no, I think that's just if you want them to like pop up, which maybe we'll go back and do that in a second, but we'll leave it as is for now with the 5 stars. It's undeniably a 5-star video game. In my opinion, it still plays better than 99% of role-playing games that come out in 2025. Just a flawless video game. Not flawless. There's flaws with every video game, but as close as you can get. All right, so remove Mass Effect and spin it. So let's see where we shall be. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Okay, well, hey, I'm not mad at that one either. Okay, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, boom. Now let's log something in for the old Odyssey. So I this was my first Assassin's Creed game that I ever played, or like ever really dove into and finished, and I thought this game was excellent. But you kind of got to take all of that context of I'm not a big old head from the franchise. Like I don't really care about the previous games. The reason I got into Odyssey was because they were advertising it, marketing it as more of an RPG, and that was appealing to me more so than their older games. But I will say, I think what I learned after really, really enjoying Odyssey, playing through it, finishing it, was that I don't think I got many of these left in me, because I then go in and I play Valhalla and I bounce out of that in 15 hours or so. I then go in and play Shadows. I bounce out of that in 20 hours or so. Less than 20 hours, probably 15 or so hours as well. And I think the fact that I played Odyssey first as like my first one of these, that was the thing. That was primarily why I enjoyed it as much as I did, I believe. So it's kind of got an unfair advantage. I don't know, maybe if I would have played Origins before it and then jumped into Odyssey, I would have felt like it was just too much too soon, too bloated. Because listen, let's not it's bloated. It's a big ass open world Assassin's Creed game filled with, map marker vomit and so many fetch questy bullshit side objectives to go and do. And a lot of that stuff can be very grindy because there is the leveling system of, oh, this character's a level 37, and even though I jump down and stab him in his damn jugular, it does like 2% damage. And that annoying shit is present. But I guess because I didn't play Origins, and I hadn't played like the big open world Assassin's Creed games, and I hadn't had my fill with that yet, I was just a little bit more tolerable towards Odyssey. And you're talking ancient Greece, you're talking just such a beautiful, beautiful world. I can't count how many times the ship combat is so good, but even within that, jumping off the ship and diving down into the depths of the sea and exploring and finding a cave under the damn, underground in the ocean, you're swimming around, finding something there. And it just it was a fucking breathtaking video game. And I think for me as well, I was surprised by how solid the main story was. I actually really enjoyed the main story, and specifically with the kind of story regarding your father in the game, and how you were allowed to have some sort of choice in resolving that issue fairly early on. And of course, when you get down to like the combat, you're talking about Spartan kicking motherfuckers off of cliffs, which has been that's been done a million times since then. But at this time, you're playing, you're in ancient fucking Greece, and you're Spartan kicking motherfuckers from these damn. It was just perfect for this game. And obviously, I'm blanking on the. I know Cassandra. That was the iconic main character for Odyssey, but I'm blanking on the dude's name right now, which I guess that is very much a knock against this game if I cannot remember the name of the main character. But to be fair, from my memory from 2018, I haven't played this since 2018, I do remember him being fairly likable, and just the different branching dialogue paths and the different romantic options that would present themselves to you. I really, really enjoyed this game. I found it damn fun. But listen, if we're talking about, having to throw a 1 out of 5 rating on it, I think this is a very solid 4-star game. There's certainly flaws with it, and I know that I give it a little bit of preferential treatment because it was my first time. I'm well aware. If this would have been the 5th, 6th big open world Assassin's Creed game that I jumped into, I would probably feel very similarly about this as I do to Shadows and Valhalla. And yeah, I get it. So we'll drop it in at 4 stars. So I jotted down some text here, since I think that I believe it was Pandagrog in the community said that you have to have text in the review box for them to pop up on your like public, you know, and if you click on the link to my backlogged account, I guess they don't pop up unless you have text for the review. So I jotted down for Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Spartan kicking my AC virginity. I may have forgotten your name, but I remember your daddy issues. Hope things are going well. So that's the level of depth and insight you can expect to get on my backlogged account. But let's go ahead and run it back on the spinner. Spin that wheel. And let's see what the next game on the docket shall be. Oh, yes, dude. Today is a good day, my friends. SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. Let's talk about it. So, for those of you who have been around for a while, you will know that this is one of my favorite video games of all time because it features one of my favorite video game modes of all time. SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, the GM mode is unbelievable. It is everything I dreamed about as a kid whenever I had my damn wrestling action figures and I was building up my matches. I would literally... I had this tub of wrestling figures and my cousin was a major nerd, much older than me, and he would book out all the matches on notebook, like pen and pad, actually write everything down, write the storylines out, write how the damn scene from, what is it? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the conspiracy board where they're pinning this to that. And like, how could this moment right here tie into next week? And how should we position The Undertaker to go one-on-one with Randy Orton for the title at SummerSlam? Like, we had this full thing built out that we were trying to go through. And like, we were playing the role of the general manager. And then 2005 comes around and we get SmackDown vs. Raw 06, and it's like everything we were doing with the wrestling action figures, but you can do it in game. And you go in and you do the draft and you pick the storylines, you book the rivalries, you see the ratings where I'm controlling SmackDown and your friend or my cousin's controlling Raw, and you're actually getting to see the ratings. And we would sit there and we would have 3-on-3 matchups where me and two of my friends would take on my cousin and two more friends, and we would sit there and have to try to book out each week of the show. And we would even get into little debates of, I don't know if we should put Rey Mysterio up against Eddie Guerrero. The rivalry is kind of trending downward. The fans don't seem to be as responsive to it as they were in week 1 and 2. We might need to tail this, kind of put this rivalry on ice for a little bit. And it's all of this shit that I had been dreaming about in a video game for my entire life came true in SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. And not to mention, this I think is, I will, to be fair, you definitely do start to go into the direction of maybe slightly over simulated in terms of the in-ring action. But I think this was right before, you bring in the stamina meters and a lot of that stuff in 07, which some of that stuff was in 06 as well, to be fair, but it started to get a lot more simmy as you go into 07, 08, and definitely into the 2010s and beyond. But this was perfect in between that Here Comes the Pain and before it got too simmy. But granted, I will be fair, I do still think Here Comes the Pain is the best overall, in terms of game feel. If you just want to boot it up and get into a match, I think Here Comes the Pain is still the best feeling wrestling game of all time. You might have some preference for No Mercy if you grew up with a Nintendo 64, but I still think Here Comes the Pain controls a little bit better. But yeah, man, I mean, this is going to get a very high rating. And I mean, not to mention the damn season mode. The season mode in SmackDown vs. Raw 06 is absolutely god tier. So damn good. So funny. And, going in and being able to have this huge roster of characters that you can start up a season with, and it all makes sense depending on who you choose. And it's, yeah, dude, a very, very fucking good game. And also, shout out to Game Fools for this trailer. And then they do a lot of these trailers where it's kind of like a fan-made trailer for the different wrestling games, and they're all fantastic. So shout out to Game Fools for that. All right, so SVR 06, or damn, that was 2007. Hold on. All right, there we go. And now let's review this bad boy. I think that, I mean, listen, dude, if I personally, this is my favorite wrestling game of all time. Obviously, I'm a wrestling nerd. So that kind of goes without saying. And I should say, back in the day, I was a major wrestling nerd. I really don't know much about wrestling at all today, but I still think, despite me kind of waning a bit on my wrestling fandom, I still go back to this game annually and do a GM mode or run a season mode. Like, I love playing this game. And I think it's also the perfect GM mode before it gets overly complicated. 07 is great as well, but 08, way overcomplicated, and definitely the modern 2K games way overcomplicated with the GM mode. So yeah, that's a 5-star video game, in my opinion. God tier wrestling game. Back to the wheel we go, and we remove SVR 06 and we spin this bitch. And the pick looks like it's going to fall to Spider-Man 2018, Insomniac's Spider-Man. So this is one, it's interesting because I've seen some, I don't know, there's been this collective kind of souring on Spider-Man 2 that released in 2023. Like, when that game came out, I remember people talking about how it was definitively better than 2018 Spider-Man. And now it definitely doesn't feel that way. Just, once again, hive mind sort of collected. How much does that matter at all? Probably not much at all. But I do think that, like, you can go back. I did a Spider-Man ranking video after finishing Spider-Man 2. And I do believe I had 2018's higher than Spider-Man 2, even at that time. And a big reason for me, like, there's no doubt, in my opinion, I do not agree with the souring on Spider-Man 2. I think Spider-Man 2 is a fantastic video game from a gameplay standpoint. I think Spider-Man 2 suffers a little bit narratively, and I don't think that Spider-Man 1 has those same, like, pacing issues, or definitely not in terms of, introducing Mr. Negative, which is not a totally original villain, but in their portrayal of him and just this is a brand new story that feels fresh as fuck. Their portrayal of Aunt May, and I don't want to go. Anybody who has finished that game, you will know kind of what I'm alluding to, but very, very heavy Spider-Man story. Like, one of the heavier Spider-Man stories I have ever witnessed. And, when I think about just, like, trying to create a game where, even you're talking about Doc Ock, and the relationship there is so compelling, as you know where it's going to go, but somehow there's a level of misdirect and a level of you're not completely sure, even though you are obviously completely sure because it's been told 100 times, and like, yeah, it's gonna be told 101 times, but it's compelling and it's shocking. And I just think that the story in this game is so much better than it had any right of being. And you're talking about Batman, the Arkham games come out, great games, not great stories, good stories, fine, serviceable, great worlds. I mean, Arkham Asylum, some of the best world building that's ever been done in a video game, period. But, narratively, it's not some juggernaut. This comes along and it's legitimately a juggernaut narratively, I would say. And it has that level of course, it's taking from inspiration in a very obvious manner. Like, they look at the Arkham series and they're like, how can we do that style of combat but with Spider-Man? And I think that they kind of perfected that. Sure, would I have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more innovation in that department? I guess so, but my whole thing is like, if you can find a formula that works with your character and you just make it damn solid, I don't necessarily need every studio to try to capture and try to figure out the next new innovative thing to do in the gameplay space or in the storytelling space. Like, if you have something that you think is going to work and it's just going to be really damn solid and people are going to enjoy it, I'm kind of okay with a little bit of lacking in innovation. I don't think this is the world's most innovative game, but what they borrow from, the Arkham series, and then of course Spider-Man 2 from 2004 on the PlayStation 2. That's the template for the open world here. And then they just master the swinging and they master the... I do think, I will say, Spider-Man 2 from 2023 definitely has the better side content. And that seems like an area where PlayStation is really... the first party studios are really improving, where Zero Dawn lacking side content that was compelling, Tsushima lacking side content that was compelling, and then Forbidden West, great side content, Yote, great side content, and then the same thing, Spider-Man 1 lacking a bit in side content that's super compelling, and then Spider-Man 2 in 2023 just much, much better. So over to the backlog we go. Marvel Spider-Man 2018. Let's log a review for this thing. And I mean, man, I think how many damn 4 stars am I going to give today? But I think this is like the perfect 4.5. I mean, yeah, like 4.5 seems about right for, we'll go 4 stars. We'll go 4 stars. I feel like I was about to give 4.5 just because I've given so many 4 stars, and that's not like that's not how you're supposed to review things. 4 stars is like an 80, right? And well, I don't know. I think I would give this above an 80. I probably would be around a 84, but I guess that would, if you're rounding, you would round down to an 80. So yeah, we'll drop it in at 4 stars for Spider-Man 1. Incredible video game. I keep on forgetting that you gotta write the damn reviews in there. So I typed in innovation is overrated, great is good enough for 2018 Spider-Man. Nothing overly clever there, but those were the words that I thought of. So let's lock that in and let's head back over to The Wheel. Remove 2018 Spider-Man. And how many games? We've kind of been on a roll here, so let's just keep fucking rolling. Spin it again. Spin this wheel and maybe do a couple more of these, and then I'll hop out of his hair. Oh, Jesus Christ. Grand Theft Auto 5. And I think that's the only Grand Theft Auto I put in the wheel. I tried to limit the wheel to only 1 game per franchise. So I don't know if I stuck to that, but I tried to. GTA 5 is a tough one. I went back and replayed that last year, and it's a very tough game. Like, I don't necessarily know how to score this because I don't give a fuck about online at all, so I'm really not going to score online. I think a lot of, the souring on this game comes from the online community, comes from people thinking there's a lack of content and a lack of, DLC for the story, and just some negative sentiment regarding how popular online became and kind of detracted from what the core Grand Theft Auto fandom wants from GTA 5. And I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, I think when you create something that is so... I mean, this thing has become ubiquitous to a point. It's like sold 200 million copies. I don't really blame them for focusing so much on the online and the shark cards and this, that, and the other. Like, that is a cash cow. Unlike, if you can find a way to create something like this, it's a 1 in a million chance that any studio ever it's not 1 in a million, it's 1 in a fucking billion chance that any studio's ever going to create something as lucrative, as popular as this. So like, I completely understand why they, you know, I completely understand why they stuck to primarily focusing and catering to the online community. However, I think it's a hard game to talk about because not just that, it's also not my favorite Grand Theft Auto. Although it is as polished, as well made, it plays incredibly fucking well. I played the PlayStation 5 version last year, and I think it's still one of the better looking games on the system. I mean, I know it's a polished up version, but it's essentially the same game that came out in 2013. And of course, improved lighting and in ray tracing and all of that helps. But it's a beautiful, beautiful achievement on a technical level. And I think that's the thing that, there's always going to be so much talk before a Rockstar game releases. And you're feeling that right now with GTA 6 of can they live up to the expectations? What if it's botched? What if it's buggy? What if it's broken? And then it's like, oh, right. You go back and play one of these things and you're like, they don't fuck around like at all. And I think that's why they have accrued such goodwill and such fanfare and such anticipation around the world for their next release, because it's like they just make great fucking shit. Like they don't touch good. They don't they don't touch great. They make top of the top of the top of the totem pole. But it kind of comes back to the difficulty for reviewing this, for putting a star rating on it, because it's not one of my favorite Grand Theft Auto games. I think I would take San Andreas above it without a doubt. I would take Vice City above it. So yeah, I mean, it would come in third. I think I would take this above 4. 3 is tough because like 3 I have so much nostalgia for, and 3 is undeniably the most innovative game in the entire series, the most groundbreaking game in the entire series, the most important game in the entire series. It's like hard to say 3 is anything but a 5-star bona fide masterpiece. But it's like GTA 5 in terms of the game that I would recommend to anybody to go in to play that's just going to feel damn good. It would be this one over all of the rest. Like the others are so damn outdated. By it, when if you're talking about, the third person shooting aspect or just gameplay in general, those games age really, really quickly. And this one still hasn't. It's not top tier. I will give you that. Certainly not top tier shooting, top tier melee combat. And I think that they got so much better with the melee combat and the shooting in Red Dead 2, although more methodical, more kind of specific to that tone and vibe that they're trying to capture in RDR2, which is a much slower pace. So that's all very intentional, but this is undeniably the best playing Grand Theft Auto game of all time. And I think it's incredibly slept on narratively. People just shit on this story and they like point to Trevor as the comedic relief, the gag, and then like they kind of, it seems a lot of people like to make Trevor the example for the entire story, and it's like, no dude, Franklin has an excellent story. Michael has an excellent story. And I even think Trevor, if you can look past the surface level shenanigans, like Trevor is a incredibly loyal character that is extremely complex if you actually dive into him. Like his motives throughout this entire game stay very committed to helping this one specific person that, once again, won't go into, but Trevor's kind of getting fucked around a lot. Like I ended up feeling very sympathetic towards Trevor by the end of this game, which is not something that when you first, like on first blush, when you first meet Trevor, the first impressions are, yeah, this dude could die in 10 minutes and I would be totally fine never seeing this character in the game again. And then the more you play it, you're like, oh, wow, he is kind of the most loyal character in this game in general. this is so funny, and I think it's such a great example for. So we have Grand Theft Auto 5 2013. We have Grand Theft Auto 5 2022. I think this is such a great example for why, like, when we were talking about Cyberpunk, I was like, well, there's Cyberpunk 2020 and then Cyberpunk 2023. And my thoughts on those games are drastically different depending on which we pull from. That is not the case for Grand Theft Auto 5. Pick either one. It's going to get the same score. They're both fucking fantastic. They don't put out bullshit, and it's that's kind of the thing, where you got to respect that at the very least. They just don't release garbage. They're not going to, people talking about the inevitable delay for GTA 6. And I'm kind of starting to think it might not get delayed, but regardless of if it does, if it doesn't, they will delay it. They'll delay this thing until 2028. They're not going to put out bullshit. And I think that that's the kind of, you have to respect that, So I'm going to go 4.5 stars for Grand Theft Auto 5. All time great video game. All right. And damn it, I forgot to got to do the writing. I keep forgetting the writing. So my beautiful my written word here is a series full of goats. Not my favorite of the goats, but a goat nonetheless. I guess I should say this is not my favorite goat. Who the fuck cares? This is you get the point. That's the written word for GTA 5. And now what are we? The wheel. We got to hit the wheel. How many games have we covered so far? Okay, so we are at 7 games that we have reviewed so far in this video, and we're at like 45 minutes or so into the show today. So actually, you know what? Let's see. Let's jot down Vampire real quick to go ahead and mark this bad boy down, because I have finished Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. So Bloodlines 2. Let's log this bad boy as well into the docket. So I talked about this on the ranking that just went up, so I won't be too long-winded about my thoughts. This game is a very, very cool video game. It has great atmosphere, but it's a rough experience. Like, you feel the development hell all throughout this game. It is unacceptable. The frame rate tanking on this thing nonstop, and just the technical performance. Like, when you see the characters and stuff, you're like, damn, this looks pretty decent. And then the atmosphere and the lighting of the room and the city, and just, their creation of Seattle and this, dope ass world that they're building, and even the powers and the different abilities that you have access to. Like, this game is fun as shit to play, but it is busted, man. The game crashed on me a couple times. I was kind of ultimately fairly disappointed with the story. I don't think your choices matter as much as they want to make it seem like your choices matter in this game, which bums me out, because I do think that there's something very, very special here. And I hope that with a clean development time, like if they can get a chance to make a follow-up to this, or, I was talking about it in the comment section of that last video, like I would love to see Techland get this IP and not make necessarily a Masquerade game or Bloodlines 3 or whatever you want to call it, like just something in the Vampire universe where you don't have to have the extra attachment with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 3, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Like, let's just something Vampire, where you can make this your own thing. Because I do think just moving around in this world and jumping from rooftop to rooftop in your trench coat as you're vibing, and you walk into a library and it's this sort of rendition cover of Radiohead's Creep that's playing in there, and it's not like a direct cover, but it's definitely the opening riff of that song to some degree, and I like that shit a lot. I genuinely do. I love the vibe of this game. I really like a lot of the characters that they created here. It's just messy. It's a messy experience. And these are some of the toughest games to review because I do think, like, how I look at these backlogged reviews, and y'all can tell me if this is crazy, but I look at this as some semblance of trying to, like, if you look at my catalog of reviews here, you could look at it and go, okay, well, this is obviously very, very subjective, where you're seeing SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 have 5 stars. You're like, okay, well, of course that's not a fucking 100 out of 100, obviously. But maybe if you're a wrestling fan, you look at that and you're like, well, damn, I've never played this wrestling game, and this guy seems to be a wrestling fan and he gives it high praise. I might want to go and check it out. Whereas this is a tough game to recommend. Even as much as I like it, I don't know if you pick this thing up, I don't even know if you'll be able to finish it. You know, there's certainly a likelihood, a percentage chance that this thing just bugs the fuck out on you. You know, it crashed out on me twice, and maybe even more than that while playing it. And so, like, in its current state, it's a tough recommend for $60. But for me, you got to keep in mind, I am a Alpha Protocol sicko. I will go to the ends of the earth defending that game. And I don't know what weird spectrum I'm on. I guess I probably do know what spectrum I'm on, but I am such a fan of gangster shit, Bond, spy, espionage thrillers, and gothic Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson era, industrial, whatever the hell that vibe is, vampires, and that whatever that era of spooky shit is, this so perfectly captures it. And it's to me, I really ended up having a good time playing this, even if I was disappointed with certain aspects. For my personal taste, this kind of was it really worked for me. But let's try to put a score on this thing. I don't want to ramble too long, because once again, I talked about it in the ranking. But yeah, so I'll tell you where my brain is leaning. Right now, I'm leaning in between either 2.5 or 3 for this game. And I'm leaning closer to 3, and I understand. I completely get it if people are like, oh, you're letting your subjectivity take over, but I guess that's the entire point of all of this shit, is like it's a personal sort of account here. And if I was letting my subjectivity take all the way over, I think I'd be leaning a lot more to like 3.5 stars. I kind of fucking dig this thing, but let's stick it through, because it is a mess of a video game. It's a mess of a video game. And not even to say just the bugs alone are not the problem. Like, that's a major problem, but the fact that there's 2 sides of this game. One side is a detective game, and that shit kind of fucking sucks. Like, it's cool at first. I love in that spectrum that we're talking about, detective games are in that as well. In detective stories, I love that shit. This can be a real drag, and it turns into a full-blown walking simulator for hours on end at times, and that presents major pacing problems. So we're going to go with 3 stars for Bloodlines 2, but we got to find some words for it. All right, so my text here reads, if 2010's era of janky Obsidian had a goth phase and replaced Michael Thornton with Marilyn Manson, this is 2025's Alpha Protocol. I guess that's 2 sentences, but you get the point. Definitely, I think this will go down as one of those kind of cult classics that was rough around the edges when it released. Hopefully it'll get polished up, patched up, but there are things in this game that cannot be patched, are not bug related, or not tech related, or just kind of bad. And that's unfortunate, but this game has a fucking vibe. It's cool as shit. I really, really liked it a lot in certain areas, and then I really didn't like it in other areas. So 3 out of 5, I think, feels fair for Bloodlines 2. But before we get out of here, I got to shout out my Patreon supporters who are supporting, the Patreon and YouTube members who are supporting at that shout out tier. And I'm going to take a question from Patreon before we jump out of this episode as well. And if you would like to submit a question to the show, you can do that at patreon.com or join the YouTube membership program. I post a thread each week. You can write in. And I'm also going to do like video votes on there as well for people to go in. They can vote on which videos I make here on the channel. And but yeah, shout out to Captain Corndog, Sadik, and Vin for supporting at that shout out tier on Patreon or through the YouTube membership program. But before we jump out of this episode, let's take a question from Justin Parkhouse on Patreon. And he writes in and says, what is the best weapon in a video game? I'd say mine is the Leviathan axe in God of War from 2018. I would say the Leviathan axe is god tier without a doubt, but for me, I think that the gravity gun from Half-Life 2 is definitely one of them. And it's just anything like this where you have sort of physics interaction and you can pull a weapon to you, and then you can, you send this blade just flying at an enemy, and then you're literally decapitating them or separating them in half, and you see the dismemberment actually occur in the body as left, where you got the torso on one end and the legs on the other end. And it's just, I love shit like that in games. And also, the plasma cutter in Dead Space for the same reason. And shout out to Vertigo for this gameplay here. But that would definitely be one of mine. But I think, to that point of any kind of telekinetic powers, and I'm not saying that this is a weapon per se, but anytime in a Star Wars game or Control, or any time that telekinetic powers are being used and you can like pull someone to you, and then, you send that lightsaber just through their gut as you're using those telekinetic or force powers to pull them to you. And then just that sort of reaction, pull to, stab through. That is such a satisfying ass feeling in video games. And I mean, I guess while we're at it, talking about lightsaber combat, I mean, not even just a lightsaber combat. In terms of my all-time favorite melee combat in the history of video games, using the damn lightsaber in Jedi Knight Jedi Academy is up there. I truly do believe that this is the lightsaber perfected in this game, where they built the entire game around it, opposed to Outcast, where you probably go through 3 hours of that game before you even get your lightsaber. And then in Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, that's like the game. They triple down on the lightsaber, and it just feels so fucking good to use. It feels so good to use, dude. It's every single swipe matters so much. And like, if you can hit your opponent, if you can land a strike on your opponent, you could crumple them bitches immediately. There's no, it doesn't feel, I love Jedi Fallen Order, I love Jedi Survivor, but it feels like you're just hacking away. And it's like, dude, I got a lightsaber. One touch of this blade should fucking disintegrate most of my enemies. And Jedi Knight Jedi Academy perfectly fulfills that power fantasy while also putting you against other Jedi who can deflect your attacks. And it feels like a real game of real skill, where kind of Bushido Blade-esque, where every single move and counter move and every strike and every time you extend your arm, like, everything matters. And then, I that game is so good. But I mean, yeah, I could go on and on about favorite weapons. Like, I'm just sitting here thinking now, it'd be crazy if I went through this entire thing without talking about the rocket launcher in Resident Evil 2. Because, I mean, without that rocket launcher in Resident Evil 2 from 1998, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about video games right now with you all. Like, that was the weapon that, and of course with the Gatling gun here as well, and also shout out to, let's see, Tony Action here for the video that I'm using. Because without those two weapons, the Gatling gun and the rocket launcher, I would have never been able to get through Resident Evil 2 whenever I was, 5 years old or whatever. Like, I never in my wildest dreams would have been able to finish those games. And even just sitting there with my cousin as he was guiding me through the puzzles, like, regardless of all that, I would have never been able to put together, how to maneuver my way through the RPD to get to the sewer, to get to, like, I never would have been able to do all that shit if it were not for the rocket launcher just kind of making the actual combat, the gameplay trivial. And so I just had a blast with it. I was just having so much fun that it was once again back to that combination of your Nine Inch Nails and Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson and Typo Negative. And I loved just anything dark and spooky and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all of those, the big horror movies at the time, and the music that was leaning into that spooky direction. And then this is kind of my first introduction into a horror game. And I would not have been able to play it at 5 years old without shooting a fucking rocket launcher and blowing everybody's brains to smithereens. Like, the entire gameplay was two buttons and you're moving on, but I was able to capture the atmosphere, the vibe, and just have so much fucking fun that I wanted to play everything from that point on. And so I would have to shout out the rocket launcher in specific for being my gateway into gaming. That is really the weapon that without it, I have no idea if I would be sitting here talking about video games with y'all today, because it was unbelievably fun. I was like, well, let me have this type of fun. I want to play everything and experience the same level of joy. And so shout out to my cousin, Miss you, Davey, and shout out to the rocket launcher. But yeah, that is the episode. It's, your suggestion here with the Leviathan Axe in 2018's God of War. What a mechanic, with retrieving that thing. And it's the exact thing that I was talking about with the, telekinetic or with the gravity gun, of just being able to use a weapon and then pull that weapon back to you and seeing the actual physics take place in real time. Like, there's an element of that with that Leviathan Axe. And same thing with the Jedi games. More recent Jedi games, you throw the lightsaber, and then you kind of circle back and you call for it, and then it comes and it can like hit the enemies along the path while it returns to you, while you retrieve it. That shit there's something to that is just so satisfying. But also Blades of Chaos, gotta throw those out there for sure, from the original games. And yeah, so video game weapons, man. Like, it is the greatest thing in the fucking world, is just finding a combat system in a game that you are addicted to. And the real reason you're going to be addicted to any combat system, any weapon-based combat system, is when you find that go-to, weapon, or that go-to item or ability. Because abilities, not to get into a full tangent here, but that is a key thing as well, of finding, because Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, if I would have not found a couple of those abilities in that game, I could have seen myself really resenting that experience. But as I'm doing my venom attacks, because it does have a little bit of that darkness venom sort of energy to it as well. But I'm pressing L2 and square, and I'm having these hands pop up from the ground, and they're grabbing the enemies and leaving them prone to my attack, completely vulnerable, defenseless. I'm going in there just chopping them bitches up and doing the quick hands and all this silly shit. It's the ability where you kind of teleport right behind the enemy, just rip their damn neck out. Fucking so good. So good. So yeah, it's, abilities are absolutely a key element to just finding something addictive in a combat loop as well. But shout out to you, Justin Parkhouse. Shout out to all the Patreon supporters, YouTube members. Thank y'all so very much. And I hope that everyone is doing well. I hope y'all have a good weekend. I apologize, man, for this month. Just fucking, I did not see how quick this month was wrapping up. And we recorded the ranking on the 27th, or no, it was later than that. It was like the 29th. I'm not, my brain, but anywho, we try to record those rankings like the 22nd or the 23rd, and then have a little bit of time before, just cramming to, but my brain just completely slipped there. And so we dropped the ranking, and I was like, well, fuck, the podcast is supposed to go out on Friday, but I dropped the ranking on Thursday. I was like, all right, let's push the podcast to Saturday. So I guess the weekend is probably already over by the time you're watching this. I'm recording this on Friday. But yeah, I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you head into your next week and have a good week. And I was talking to Loon about this on the ranking, so apologize for the redundancy, but I'm actually kind of pumped that there's only like 2 or 3 games coming out in November that I really want to check out, because that October was something else. Trying to keep up with that onslaught of releases was something else for sure. And there's a couple things that are just falling through the cracks that I really, really want to get to before we do the in-year Game of the Year ranking. And I don't know if I will be able to, but I guess that's why we do the backlog ranking as well. But I've been thinking about that this year, where whenever I drop that, I don't know if I even have 10 backlog games that I've completed this year. So that might be a really quick ranking for 2025's backlog kind of completion ranking. But anywho, appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Apologize for the slight delay for the show, but I hope y'all enjoy this sort of backlog topic here. I'm going to try to present it in a slightly different manner with a different title, a different thumbnail, and then hopefully that can get out there to some more eyeballs. So if you are new and you're somehow just stumbling upon the channel, hey, how are you? Why are you still watching this? Thank you for still watching this, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Yeah, this is, I ramble a lot. If you couldn't tell, this is the name of the channel is very fitting, but yeah, I appreciate any new viewers who might have stumbled upon this. Hopefully that'd be great. And if y'all do like it, consider dropping the video a like, and I'll continue doing this damn backlog review series or whatever the hell we're going to call it. I still kind of got to come up with a decent name for it to get people to click on it. But I do like this. This is fun as fuck. Like, it's spontaneous. You never know what you're going to get. And you're like, fuck, thinking, okay, this game that I haven't played in 18 years now, I got to try to come up with like a 3-minute synopsis of how I feel about it and then give a star rating for it. It's just silly, dumb shit. But that's always what I've enjoyed the most with doing video game content discussion, podcast, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's just, enjoying and shooting the shit about these games. And I do definitely want to figure out the right format to discuss the news. But, honestly, what I've been thinking about with that, here we fucking go. Like, I'm just going to hit the stuff that is appealing to me. How we've been doing the video where it's exclusive games are antiquated. Like, that's something that's news related, but I'm not necessarily interested in reporting it. Like, let's just discuss it. There's a specific thing that's interesting. Let's break it down, opposed to like just trying to fill shit in for the sake of filling shit in. There's too much other shit that I want to create to be like creating filler content, you know? I don't know. My brain always goes back and forth on it because it's also the thing of the more content that I'm putting out there, the less I'm able to really play games. And I never want to be that YouTube creator who's nonstop running my damn mouth and not actually playing the video games. I think that's a really, really important part of having a show about video games, is actually playing video games. It's wild that that's a foreign concept to some, but I very much value that. So it's all about finding the balance. But anywho, I'm just saying words at this point. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all are doing well. And yeah, I'll see you good people next week. And then might change the formula up, might stick with it, roll with it again. We'll see how the chips are dealt. No, cards are dealt, chips fall. Words. Have a good one, guys. Appreciate y'all. See you soon. Goodbye.